So we're here with the Warpstone Cup winner. Alfredino has also won Faction Wars that I've hosted. Has gotten very far in several Turn events, not Turn. You
Hello,
got
hello.
you got third in his domination thingy. I remember you've either won or got second in the Everchosens way back when. So you're a born winner. And I believe you're currently competing in the Olympics, which are right next door to you. So that's also pretty sick. And
Yeah, I guess.
you messaged me in a frenzy saying you had something you wanted to tell everyone. So we're here, and what people see on their screen is going to be two different tier lists. It's not the only thing you wanted to say, but two different tier lists. There's one that you said was trash, mega garbage, and it's the one that Strat, myself, and Black Knight put together. And 1 second. Yeah, I'll just share my screen with you.
Okay.
That's easier. Boom. And the other one is your tier list, which you say is better in every single way, and definitely didn't give me extra context that is important. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about the focus of your tier list?
Okay, so it's actually we're not talking on the same principles for the tier list. Your tier list, for what I understood, is focused on like the strength of the faction overall, while mine is focused on how easy it is and how efficient it is to pick up in a tourney in competitive, which is very different because basically, let's say, for example, a trash faction is very, very good at countering one pretty good faction, then it has instantly some value to the faction for competitive, while overall the faction can be really bad. So
So immediately my eyes are drawn to Zinch only in A tier, when I feel like Zinch was top pick and ban through the Warpstone Cup. Is that just because of the difficulty it is to pick up and play it correctly? Or do you think it's not as strong as everybody thinks it is?
Oh, okay. So Sinch is probably the faction. I mean, I know most Kislev, but Sinch is next to Kislev pretty much for me in Warhammer 3. In terms of like my knowledge about them. So Sinch for me is overinflated in people's mind. Like it's very cheesy. It can be very, very efficient. It is actually an A-tier faction for me because I do believe it's a very, very good counter faction. But in fact, I do believe that outside of that, it cannot be first picked, and it has Kislev, Empire, and Dwarves, Lizardmen as well. You could even argue that Cathay and Bretonia are up there too. Skaven as well. All those factions, they have the tools to win against Tzeentch.
Oh, Skaven definitely can
I
beat Zinch. I think that's the most bait counter pick of all time. Like, whenever people pick Zinch into me as Skaven, I'm like, oh, nice. I
yeah,
can get a
that's like
win.
that's actually a super good, not like a super good matchup, but definitively a favorable matchup. I remember prior to Keros nerfs and like changes on regrowth and such, I was playing it a lot with Razor, a very good Skaven player, alongside being a good Beastman player.
Yeah.
And it basically, uh, I was losing to him quite easily at a time where I was playing a lot and playing the faction a lot. So then Sinch got nerfed, got some Sentigos, so it got back up. But I still do believe the matchup is actually very, very hard to play, simply because you have Tempest. The Tempest by default will have some value, and therefore Skaven has a lot of tools. It is not easy to snipe a Skaven character in the present setup. and even like the cheeses, they are not easy to pull up. So yeah, I just talked about maybe 7-8 different factions that are, in my opinion, pretty good against Zinch, and like I do not believe it is a good idea to play Zinch as it is in first pick. But
For Tempest,
it
you mean
yeah.
Howling Warp Gale and like the Warpstone Scroll and stuff, not literally Tempest, the high elf spell.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tempest like spells, I guess, like
Yeah, just
net
I know what you
for.
mean, but I'm clarifying for the YouTube commenter that's gonna be like, well, actually, and I'm like, dude, he's being generic. Like,
Yeah,
just roll with
I'm
it.
sorry. If I'm forgetting a name, try to find a good replacement to it.
Yeah. Well, you're just
Yeah,
not used to YouTube, man. They don't deal in generalizations. You got to be exactly right, or your entire argument's wrong because you fucked up one word. It's
it's
the
actually
it's the
it
internet,
actually must be
brother.
hard. Yeah, it actually must be hard for you, I must say. I'm not super used to it, so.
Yeah. So
But
no,
yeah, Zinch, I people bind it a lot against me, but it is something that is for me a bait, except if you are expecting to play a lot of rushing factions that are actually scared to play against Zinch. So yeah. Do you want me to talk more about like the S tier, or what do you want me to talk in particular? In
uh,
like
we can get to the S tier in a second. I'm just picking out a few highlights I'm seeing. Why is Nurgle dead last? I don't disagree, but on our tier list he ended up at B. But I gotta say, I feel like I feel like the hype is wearing off, and now Nurgle is just kind of whatever. They're just not that good at anything.
so I'm putting it right there because of prior nerfs. I do believe before the nerfs on Kugaf, Nurgle was up to like C to B tier in competitive wise. Like it was a faction that could have some value because basically anytime you could play with Kugaf, it was anytime it was viable to play with Kugaf, it was a good matchup. Nurgle, if you're not able to play with Kugaf, at least that's my opinion, and that was prior to Kugaf nerfs. If you were not able to play with Kugaf, it was a bad matchup by default. Kugaf was one of the reasons the faction is actually nightmarish to play in some cases.
Hmm.
It was actually a good counter to Beastmen, for example. Um, it's a very good counter to Vampire Count, so bunch of factions that are on the fringe and Beastmen. But that alone is already pretty good.
I feel like
About Nurgle, actually. Yeah, sorry.
I feel like what sucks most for Nurgle is their entire roster is carried by their lords and their lore of magic, which Demons of Chaos can just take that magic and not take the rest of Nurgle's shitty units.
Yeah, true. True.
I'm noticing the Demons of Chaos is a lot higher up than Nurgle is.
Yeah, so we'll get to this point about Demon of Chaos, I'm sure. But yeah, for Nurgle, the issue is that Kugaf got nerfed heavily to a point where I do not believe it's a viable choice compared to like a normal great and clean one, for example. The whole point of Kugaf was the fact that with Kugaf, you were winning the single entity duel any number, like any day. You were also winning the blob and even the attrition fights. So you could then cover up for every other weakness of your army just by having Kugaf and 5 Nurgles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But now you only have Pestigos left and a bunch of actually good units, but quite alone in the roster. I also think the Angel of Deaths are probably one of the best units. It's probably one of the best units in the game. For 1700, it adds so much value in the roster, but again, they feel quite alone.
Yeah,
So
the those are the plague drone regiment of Noun, right?
yes,
Yeah, those things are tight. I love those.
it's actually doing an incredible amount of damage, giving you some like initiative on the battlefield, also providing you anti infantry, but also anti single entities. So, but about Nurgle, by the way, one mention that I uh, I'm not sure about, but I will still say it. I'm pretty sure Nurgle is somewhat decent against Kislev. Not saying that I will need to test it further, but during my preparation for the tournament, I trained a bunch of rushing factions against Kislev just to see which one was fitting the best. Nurgle is decent at the job, um, and I also think that Kislev players don't have a lot of practice against in this matchup. So yeah.
Probably not. Nobody's playing Nurgle right now.
So if you consider that Nurgle is good against Kislev, then it could go higher in the list instantly, like to C tier, simply because it's good against one S tier faction. You know,
Hmm.
at the moment, since I wasn't super sure, and I still do believe it is so slow. I do not believe in Nurgle, but maybe it can build up. Let's talk about bottom to top, I guess. No,
Yeah.
ogres are trash, worst faction. Actually, both in like both in competitive wise and just in general. I do believe
Hmm.
there's, in my opinion, there's no good matchup for ogres. Every time it feels neutral at best, and it goes from bad to worse. So yeah,
Damn.
it got gutted. Um,
Everybody hates my
Noska,
poor ogres.
yeah, I don't know. But by the way, why did they nerf again the troll guts? I guess it makes sense because the spell was always used, but uh, they nerfed that on a faction that is already weak, and actually they didn't give any over like any of the substitutes to magic. So you are left with still playing with troll guts, but it's simply worse and worse each patch. So
Hmm. And your ogre bolts
yeah,
can get knocked down now.
yeah.
So.
And the issue about the faction, why I have very little faith in like CA fixing them, is that they didn't address the bug about ogre bulls being able to like do incredible amount of damage on the charge on a lot of things, like trading up on cold one nights and such. They didn't fix that, so you're still left with ogre bulls that are fundamentally broken on like bug wise, and therefore it is very complicated to be able to balance the faction.
Hmm.
Norska is actually a good faction, not like incredible, but probably on half bottom, but still not the worst. The issue about them is that a lot of rushing factions are better at the moment. So I'm disregarding them, but I don't believe they are trash by any means. I also believe there's some Chad Norscan players out there that can be quite scary. But in tourneys, yeah, it's not a contest. Like Norska cannot play against the top 8 I'm putting on my tier list. So
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that.
So then you get to like D tier, and I can't see those factions being played except by like mains and on very 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 rare occasions. Like it's very niche. I do believe that all those four factions have somewhat of a use. There is actually a very very funny thing about the Chaos Dwarves. I do believe it's a trash faction. If it was me, it would have been a bottom like 3. But the thing is, the Dreadquake Mortar, uh, alongside its Skullcracker, is able to shoot on himself. So whenever it is getting stuck in melee, basically it will absolutely obliterate any unit that is not like monstrous or single entities, you know.
Yeah.
And just for that, I guess there's some interesting cheeses and mechanics you could think of. That being said, outside of that, the faction is a kind of a one-trick pony, and even not super good at it. Like I consider Chaos Dwarf to be good whenever it can be played defensively, and it's really rare actually. And yeah, you also have better options. Like there's Kislev, Dwarves out there, even Empire. Everything else is pretty much more durable and more capable than the Chaos Dwarf for such thing.
I love how
So
Dark Elves is down there, and yet still every goddamn stream is full of Dark Elves.
yeah. So what do you think about Dark Elves? What's your opinion? Actually, I'm curious.
I think they are decidedly average at everything, but for some reason they're just the most popular faction in the game. People still play them even though they're not that good.
I guess you know why. I guess it's simply because they are a little bit good. I mean, they can be played in many ways, and because they are not the top tier factions, people feel like hipsters, you know, whenever they are playing them.
Yeah. Because you
It's
never.
probably that.
It cheapens your win if you win with like the top tier stuff. Because then people just get
True.
mad at the faction you picked.
But I darkened my soul long time ago, human boy. So
That's what you gotta do to be the best.
I guess. But yeah, the Dark Elves issue again is like you cannot it's probably a good first pick faction, but you can't really make any use of like you can't really make any comparison to any first pick factions you have currently.
Mm-hmm.
And the other issue is that I've seen them being played as a counter to some top tier factions. It's really fake. I don't believe it's good into Kislev, for example. Against Demon of Chaos, it's also a little bit nightmarish. I'm not even gonna talk about Beastmen, but there's actually one good matchup in my opinion. It's Empire.
Oh, I was gonna guess dwarves.
Uh, Dwarves, the issue is that I don't believe now that playing from range is workable for Dark Elf because of the silver shields.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, if you are going to rush, it's very predictable and it's not like you have anything special compared to all the dedicated rush factions. I don't believe in them much, to be honest.
Okay. So Empire, Dark Elves is maybe good into them.
The reason for that is actually quite simple. Elspeth is countered by cheap RPs. So going for Elspeth is a huge bait for Empire most of the time. Or you will have to fend off the RPs with dedicated tools, but then it triggers a series of mechanisms that makes it so it's actually difficult to engage the fights. So yeah, Empire not really able to play with Elspeth in this matchup, but also the Steam Tank you have actually good tools against it. Like I think, for example, the Ravens Herald are very very good. It's for 900, and you are sure that in late game you are winning the fights by default.
Mm-hmm.
And you can push cavalry fights and infantry lines very easily with Dark Elf. Generally, what is done is that you win the fight. There is a steam tank left, sometimes something else, but like generally it's just a steam tank, and you just bring up the Ravens Herald. So yeah. Greenskin I think is good, but again, compare it to Slanesh and there's no contest. I think there's some use for Greenskin, notably against like things like Bretonia.
Mm-hmm.
But first speaking, Bretonia sounds bad to me, so yeah.
So that middle tier, the C with both High and Wood Elves and then Toon Kings, that seems pretty fine to me. Since they're not towards the bottom, they're just kind of like they're fine. Not really gonna do anything crazy in a tournament, but they're around.
I'm not sure, but by the way, a quick talk about it. Tom King, not sure about their place because I've seen a lot of people banning it and picking it, and I do believe it in some ways it might be like somewhat valid, but I'm still yet to see Tom King being actually a strong counter pick, you know, like something that is very meaningful, not just some sort of like sacrifice, you know.
Yeah, I haven't seen them do a lot of winning. They're a fun faction, but against any of the top tiers, they usually just lose. Even if they put up a good fight, they eventually lose.
Even against even against Zinch, I have my doubts, but yeah. So I guess B tier would be interesting for Skaven and Vampire counts.
Yeah, that one, like, I generally think the vampire counts suck, but when you're talking about tournament play and you have top level tournament players, usually those dragon lords can do a lot of work, and effective Vargeist cycle charging can do a lot. So that definitely bumps them up. Skaven, I still think people aren't being creative enough. There's so many builds I see that's like Ikit Claw, 4 Rat Ogres, some Clan Rats, some Poison Globes. Wait, how did I lose? And I'm like, no. You gotta get way more creative. I have some Skaven builds that if I wasn't so dang busy and actually got to play the game, I would show people. I'd show people their A tier. They're a good faction, god damn it!
I do believe they are actually pretty good, especially if you're not taking into account limits on Doom players.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that just for the fact that they are good counter to Demon of Chaos and the Tsinch, in my opinion, I mean, or at least they put up a good fight, and they're also still decent against dwarves. I tend to believe that they are still up there, you know. But it's not a first pick faction by any means. But it has some value.
No,
And for
they're a
Vampire
very good
Count
counter
is
pick. They're a counter pick. You definitely don't want to just like roll up first picking them because there's still some really bad matchups for you out there. But if you look at like the S tiers, Beastman Skaven is workable. It's Beastman favored, but it's workable. Kislev is doomed. Don't try that. But Demons of Chaos is good for Skaven. Tzeentch is good for Skaven. Lizardmen is good for Skaven after all the nerfs. Cathay is workable. Empire's workable. Dwarves is still Skaven favored.
I have my doubts on Beastman, Empire, and Cathay, and I'm pretty sure it's impossible for if you're playing Kislev, Skaven against Kislev.
Oh, Skaven against Kislev is impossible, but Beastman, Grand Cathay, and Empire, people got to get creative. There's some spice out there, Alfred.
There's some spice. I'm a believer, you know. I believe in the on rat. I've been a Skaven enjoyer my past years, so yeah. I think overall that if they could like buff the wolf rats, the leadership of the wolf rats, you will start seeing a lot more builds with initiative on the battlefield for the Skavens. And by initiative, I mean like being able to dictate the pace of the game and how it will look like in 30 seconds, because you will get more mobility. Until then, I don't know, but maybe. I mean, it's difficult for me to say, actually. Slaanesh also, an incredible faction, maybe one of the best rushing faction, but like Khorne, it cannot deal with a blob.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And a lot of factions in S tier are either better in mobility or good at blobbing. So it feels like it's being kept at bay by the S and A tier. But if it wasn't for 3 or 4 factions, it would be absolutely nightmarish to play against. So, yeah.
So, real
me.
quick on Khorne, some people might be surprised you hold them so highly. And don't just say because Berserk plays Khorne.
No. I think Khorne is outside of the Demon of Chaos, and if you don't want to spend another like super S tier faction, Khorne is a very good counter. I mean, very good, not very good, but like workable counter to Kislev.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably slightly unfavored. But alongside my training with Nurgle, I trained quite a lot Khorne, and think about it this way. The recipe for Demon of Chaos in order to win against Kislev is to have the Fins, the Bloodletters, and pretty much anything else that gives you some sort of like initiative. You have the Bloodletters, and the Fins, they are getting replaced by Minotaur's Great Weapon. Not as good, but still quite decent. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say is that it's a downgrade, mainly also because they can go to blob mode, and it's a very difficult army to face if you are not prepared. But it's basically a risk I'm willing to take if I was going for a best of 9, you know, like if you were going in the long run. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and also Khorne, pretty good. It's probably fine against Dwarf. It is fine against Lizardmen. I tend to believe it's pretty good against Katei. I have even seen some uses for them against Demon of Chaos, even though I must say it's probably still a very difficult matchup because there's so many ways. But yeah. And for the S tier, maybe we should just talk about the Demon of Chaos.
Yeah, the other ones are kind of well-trod. People know why they're up there, but demons have had a rapid ascent, and we saw a good amount of them in the Warpstone Cup finals. So, why are Demons of Chaos all of a sudden the bee's knees?
Just for the Fins, basically. Fins, but you have faction. So think about it this way: Demon of Chaos outside of Beastmen is the best rushing faction, and one of the reasons for that is that starting to use dirty tactics like blobbing or other things like that can be punished by Demon of Chaos because they have quite a diverse roster. They can actually punish blobs because they have pew pew, and they can also decide to go in the air or just play defensive and kind of like Roman Legion with a lot of blues and pinks. Mm-hmm. It is very, very broad. So I found that it was actually pretty usable against Kislev, but then you also have to think that you could always cheese with the by going for blob with Mortis engine with the great and clean one, or just going for change bringers. And then some factions very simply don't have the answers for that. It's so versatile. I do believe it's actually a first pick faction, one of the best. You lose domination. You lose Demon of Chaos in a tourney. It's actually quite sad because then you're opening yourself up for a lot of problems. So a good counter to dwarves, by the way. It's really rare. Dwarves actually, they are probably the most the strongest faction, and even like not saying that they have the best, they have some bad matchups, but the matchups they win, it is impossible by default. It is written like you will not win. It's I haven't found very good factions to play against the dwarves. You have a couple of things that can be played, but even now, like I do believe there's only like 7 factions that could pretend to win, and not even like favorably, but just like in general, maybe grab a win. I banned it during the tourney because during the world tourney because I felt that it was very like polarizing.
I think the fact that they can do air kite cheese, or they can blob, or they can defensive, or they can kind of half rush. It's like, oh, all right, well, fuck this then.
Yeah, completely. Like, prior, by the way, yeah. So 2 things actually. Why is those now are simply better? The hero armor is better, but like that's not a huge deal. But still, you can rush because of gyros and new units, and the rush for certain factions, it is actually very difficult to play against. I'm talking about Cathay, but even like the Empire or some others like this. But they can also defend most of the shooting by just having some ballista. For 700, this unit, the artillery unit, is locking up some matchup. It is just very bizarre why they did the change. You should have put like a price decrease of 100, and it should have been fine. And instead, they gave it 4 more models, which is crazy.
Yeah, so, it makes elven bolt throwers look like chumps.
Yeah, like it is good against infantry, good against cav. It takes so much time. Actually, I saw crews of bolt throwers being able to fend off dogs and such. Like a little bit tired dogs, but still, it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. This unit makes it really difficult. Also, a quick mention about polymer torpedoes. I do believe right now you could make an argument that they are the best pew pew units in the game.
Yeah, Trollhammers are amazingly strong.
So yeah.
I don't know why they have fire damage.
I mean, I don't know why the dwarves exist, if you ask me, but like that's, I guess, the story of another video. Jokes aside, I don't want to see the gyros getting like blasted too much, because I've seen a lot of people talking about them being absolutely like game breaking and such, and it is in some way at the moment very unfair to play against it. But at the same time, the issue is that it's opening up the dwarves for like more interactive gameplays, like rushes and such. If you don't have gyros, you probably cannot rush, and therefore, like banning, destroying the gyros force the dwarves to become less interactive, let's say. So yeah, I don't know, but I guess a little nerf should really be enforced, especially on speed for the gyros, I do believe. So yeah.
Not so fast. Helicopters. 18 speed.
Yeah,
Walking speed.
Yeah, it's let's put it at like 90, let's say. I don't know, like something that makes it so it can be caught by RPs and such, or at least more at least it could be more interesting, you know. So that's it for the tier list, I guess. Do you have any other like comments on
No,
any
you
of
said something about top players are all shit and garbage, so we can figure out what you meant by that.
You okay? You're catching me off guard. Did I say that?
No,
Maybe
no,
during
no.
my
You just said, yeah.
maybe I just slandered some of the names. Maybe.
Well, you said the green one is washed up, but other than that, I think you were pretty respectful.
Yeah, green one is washed up. Green one is washed up. True. And yet is so yeah. Let's talk about top five, shall we?
Top five players. So before you go, my personal list out of everybody that is active right now, and their strength right now, not of all times, probably you first, Berserk second, which we got in the top 8, and then he took you to 5 games. Hanniden's might be third. He was doing really well, but he couldn't make it to the finals because of scheduling, so he had to drop. And then I'd probably throw in Sipa, because he did do pretty well in the finals. Like that Zinch versus Zinch mirror, if not for that tier 3 armor ability plus net, he would have taken it in game 5. And then fifth, I suppose I still have a little faith in Tim. Tim the Wilder. But it'd be him or Sego. So I thought our tournament had a lot of the top 5 in it, but yeah, Berserk getting knocked out in top 8 was probably the 1-2 matchup.
So I have okay about my. I think your top 5 is actually quite fair.
Yay!
But I've got another like opinion on it. I guess I'm not gonna count myself, and I don't want. I mean, I might be a little bit also biased towards the ODM players, but I will try not to. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm only talking about what I've been like what I've faced, you know. So if maybe the players I've faced and that I value a little bit less, I've been like, I don't know, choking during the games we played, and it is not very levels and such, you know. But just for the sake of the experiment, I will try to do the top 5 like this. And if I was to say, the way I'm viewing the level of my opponent is based on micro and macro. Macro being like how you view the battlefield in 45 seconds. Like it is a long-term planning, and micro is a short-term planning. How you use a unit in the next 3 seconds to get a good charge. It is yeah, more it is faster, you know.
Yeah.
And micro can get, you can learn it very fast, you know. Let's say a StarCraft player is coming to our scene, he will already have quite a lot of micro. He will be able to micromanage his units, get good charges, or at least what he thinks are good charges, give a bunch of orders very rapidly. So that's something that is important for a player, but everyone at some point will eventually get some if they play enough. And also, it is how can I say? I guess it is easier to pick up, you know. But macro, so how you view the games in 45 seconds, minutes, and such. What are your winning conditions? What you need to do in order to get back on the game and such. Those things, it basically separates the players that have less hours for the players that have more hours into the game. And that's, in my opinion, something that got lost a little bit from like the departure of a lot of players from Warhammer 2 to Warhammer 3. So for me, top 5 should probably be Berserk being the number 1. Then because Berserk has actually, outside of ODM players, I think he has the best macro knowledge I saw. So he's able to actually adapt and think ahead of his games. He's also a talented micro player. So he knows, like, he gives order fast, you know. But yeah, I think Berserk is definitively up there. Then I do believe that the second best player should be Green One. I'm saying that because out of all the players that are still active and that I faced, maybe Green One is playing God mode every time I'm facing him, but he is very, very dangerous. Maybe he knows me too well, but losing to him is definitively nothing. Wouldn't be shameful or exceptional or whatever. Actually, I do believe Green One, if he was more active, he would probably dominate the scene. So yeah.
Okay.
What do you think of the two first?
Green One's washed and he's a shitter, but other than that, yeah, looking good.
You don't really want to say that he's good.
Dude, our last like 3 faction wars I've gotten to play in, I get Skaven into his Norska every time, and I'm like, damn it! And he just spams Skinwolves and beats me. It's infuriating. But
yeah,
no. I also just like
enough.
to tease him. He's a good guy.
No, yeah, but yeah, I mean, Green One, I probably think if he was putting the hours, he would be the best. Then it's probably something like Anodins, then Sipa, and then probably, if I'm being honest, I think like someone like Butcherbird, but I'm maybe wrong. The issue about Butcherbird is that he's very easily countered just by the picks and bans. The Chadders are like the people that are still playing their mains regardless of the situation, and he's one of them, but then you realize that it doesn't get you the win most of the time. And yeah, if it wasn't for that, I would probably get him on top 5, but I actually, you know what? Yeah, he's probably not top 5. Let me think. So I said Anodin, Sipa, and
Green One and Berserk.
yeah. Let's talk about Anodins for a sec. I think people are undervaluing him for some reason. Like maybe to tease him a little bit, I don't know. He's a very scary Empire player, in my opinion, because he played them regardless of whether they were good or bad during the different metas. And right now, in the current meta, he would have been a threat face. He's less scary in terms of like macro compared to Green One, in my opinion. But I've never been able to play easy on him. If I'm playing Adonins, I'm tryharding, no matter the situation, because he cannot be faced like this, you know. Sipa, I think, is a very talented player, a new player that is talented. The only reason why I'm not putting him higher is because his macro, I think, is pretty bad. It's like you will realize it doesn't. It most of the time it doesn't react well to shiftings and pre-battle moves, or even what to do, what to focus. It feels like he has good moves on the moment, but it is getting nowhere. Like you get during the finals, I've faced him like between the 4 matchups. The only time he didn't crumble on macro was during game 2, Kislev versus Demon of Chaos, where he actually played it well. He had also probably more mobility, so it was a little bit easier to play with to plan the strategy, you know. But like game 1, you cannot get shifted like that, and if you are not reacting, especially as Bretonia, because you have the mobility advantage. Game 3, it's about the same. He is engaging, but he's delaying part of his engagement, so you will get 6,000 crashing on my 12,000, and then 6,000 crashing on my 12,000. Even if it's like 10 seconds of delay, it's already 2 units that are dead, and it's not sustainable. So, and the last game also, about like our match, last game was difficult for him because he delayed his rush. He sent it. He had like 10 seconds of delay, and also he sent his mobility first, then his 4 seconds, kind of. So he lost his mobility despite having a huge advantage, and it felt like I had about the same amount of mobility as him. His build was actually pretty good against mine. Like he was getting like basically 4 seconds are one of the best counters to what I bought. I didn't really think about it actually, but it makes a lot of sense. Like it is fast and it has armor, so it cannot get really shot by blues and pinks. And even that, he managed to butcher it because it sent it very, very sparsely. So, yeah. Outside of that, I would say probably that Team the Wilder maybe could be top 5. I'm still on the fence about it, simply because I've never seen Team the Wilder playing a rush or playing a kite. In fact, he is somewhat predictable in his way of like playing. So I'm not sure he can like go for Beastman and like suddenly pop off, you know. But it might be just me not knowing him enough, you know. That's why I'm not putting him higher. Maybe he's deserving it. So yeah.
That's a pretty good top 5 though. Don't disagree.
About you want me to talk about preparation for the tourney? Actually, I think it's kind of interesting to see the point of view of a player trying to like practice a tournament before. Yeah.
Yeah. So how'd you get ready for the finals day?
Like. Actually, I started like training a little bit because I wasn't into the game. I wasn't playing the game for a long time, and you got me back into playing a little bit.
Let's go.
Yeah, And that's because of you that a lot of players find like excitement for like playing a multiplayer, I'm sure. So thanks to you for that, by the way. But
Thanks, man. We're trying, dude. We're trying out here.
yeah, I've seen you working your ass off for just having pity pity messages of people getting mad. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, keep going for it. But about my training, I didn't know much about anything meta-wise because I wasn't there whenever Changebringers were updated, whenever Santigos were added to the game. I didn't play with Chaos without regrowth. So I was not very confident with Tzeentch. And I also didn't know about Empire. And I didn't know about Dwarves because of the changes as well. And for all those reasons, I felt that I wouldn't be able to win this tourney as I didn't know the meta and didn't understand the meta to its fullest.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought to myself, the best way of training is to actually pick up like the three top factions, you know. Then you pick counters to them, and so I already knew how to play Kislev, and people were always banning Tzeentch against me. I kind of knew that I wouldn't be able to play them much, and so I was actually quite happy about it because I didn't want to play Tzeentch much, to be honest. But so I trained Kislev and I trained Beastmen. I found ways of countering Kislev, you know, so Demon of Chaos, Nurgle, Khorne, those kinds of factions. I tried to play them a lot. And for the dwarves, I thought I will permanently ban the dwarves if possible against players that could play it, you know.
That's the
So
best counter to dwarves right now. Just don't deal with them.
yeah, just don't deal with them. Like global ban, best way of dealing with them. Yeah, it's crazy faction, and it banning the dwarves is actually very scary because dwarves are one of the best counter to Tzeentch. If I'm banning the dwarves, I'm forcing kind of a ban on Tzeentch. You know,
Yeah.
that was my way of thinking. And the issue about banning the dwarf for me is that it was one of the few counters I knew about against Empire. So I had to either try to really ban Empire or decide to play with Empire, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I trained it a lot as well. So actually knew only in total for this event, I could probably play with every factions except maybe ogres, Norska, Nurgle, or High Elf. But the reality is, I was probably more trained on 5 of them. So Beastman, Kislev, Demon of Chaos, Empire, and actually Slanesh Tzeentch. Those 6 factions were the factions that I trained the most. Yeah. And whenever I started to play against Berserk, the fact that the Demon of Chaos paid off was actually probably the reason I was able to get back. The fact that I'm not banning Kislev against my opponents, so a lot of them didn't really play Kislev much. And I knew Berserk would probably be one of them, you know? So that was my reasoning.
Yeah, it's hard to get your hands on Kislev to get a lot of training in, so just not banning them and trusting your opponent's not practiced on it is decent strategy there.
So yeah. And for the preparations, just so people know, I didn't actually looked at replays of any of my opponents because I'm not invested enough to like check that the replays and look at like hours of battles and such for each of my opponents. But what I'm doing is I've got a general sense of feeling about because I've played against a lot of them prior to that, and I also asked my clanmates what do they think about certain players, you know. So that's where ODM, like ODM preparation, is helping, you know, because you have people that have been playing more with my opponents, that are able to tell me pretty much probably that guy will not play that, or that guy will probably play that against you. He has a new strategy and such. To a certain degree, against some players like Berserk, you can't really trust fully what your clanmates will tell you, simply because I do believe the guy is good enough that he could probably play anything and play even better than the training you could get with some of my clanmates. So you have to think for yourself and how would you play. Yeah, it's a little bit wilder, let's say.
How would you recommend people get into multiplayer?
About that, I would say that you have to keep playing two factions. But if I have to say, best faction to learn is Vampire Count, by far.
Like, why is that?
It is rough. It is rough. I'm not gonna say otherwise, but it gives you all the basics and all the thinking that needs to be understood in order to actually be good at the game. Not being able to play Vampire Count means that you are most likely not understanding the fundamentals of the game, and that's what I would lean to. But towards, but I also think that if you want to win, you could probably just play with something like Kislev that is very durable and strong. Overall, just again, if you want to get good, at some point, I can't really see a way where you could get good on your own, only on quick ladder. I guess it can be because I got like this into tourneys. I was getting from quick ladder, quick play. But the issue is that it is so long, and to get the matchup you want to actually train, it is almost impossible, especially for the number of factions we currently have. So you have to be able to ask someone else to repeat a matchup in order to understand it, and therefore that's the reason why I believe that clans overall, but it doesn't have to be a clan, by the way. It could also be just a group of friends, or anyone really. Like, you have to to have a training partner, you know. Otherwise, it's gonna be very hard to stick with the game, because the progress will be very slow, and the partner needs to be somewhat decent, about the same level as you, or even maybe a little bit higher. So yeah.
Well, we have a lot of clans present in our Discord that usually are looking for members. And then even if you're not looking for a clan, there's a lot of people just hanging around, talking about matchups, playing games. So we got the resources if people need them.
Oh, and yeah, Vermin League, best way to probably get some good competitive games. Like, it's basically your only way to face strong opponents without being part of a clan, pretty much, and without having to ask on DMs and such. Yeah. By the way, Human Boy.
What?
I'm going to drop from my leadership role for being like an ODM, the ODM tyrant. So in my clan, it will be shake up, but it will be shaken up. I mean, but shook up. How do you say it? Sorry.
Yeah. Shook up is correct.
Yeah, shook up. Okay. I caught you off guard.
Yeah, I was like, wait, oh crap, what are we doing?
Yeah, but it was not my last tourney per se, but I have to leave for a little bit, and therefore I'm giving the place to someone else because I think it has been the time for me to have a little to slow down a little bit. So yeah, that's it.
So the last of the old guard is leaving.
Yes, but I'm actually excited because I don't believe the new guard has much to be ashamed of compared to the old guard. I think Sigos, Sipa, Team the Wilder, all of them are quite interesting. Like they are gonna be strong players eventually. They already are. It's just they will grow even stronger. By the way, yeah, one other thing. I don't believe that all the players, like in the Total War Warhammer 2 era, were particularly better at the game than compared to the new players. You know,
Yeah.
it is simply like a case of how many hours did you put into the game at some point. But micro wise, you will see not much of a difference compare between, like, I don't know, a new good player and the old good player, you know?
Dude,
it's probably just about macro.
Even in Warhammer 2, Hadries would forget a Manticore like every fucking game.
Have you seen me forgetting about my units, by the way?
The only one I really noticed was the Vampire Counts versus Cave, where you left a full health Fargeist just sitting at the edge of the map after it ran something off, but you were almost army lossing anyway, so I was like, it doesn't matter.
Can I make a case about this battle? From all the battles I played against Team the Wilder, that was probably the battle I played the best. But until a certain point, because at some point, for some reasons, I couldn't cast any spell that wasn't overcasted. So I was doing Spirit Leeches for 12 Wind of Magic at like 50 meters, on the target at 50 meters. And I was doing like neck on... I lost my lord on the neck.
You overcast a heck and your lord just fucking dies.
Yeah, and I knew I would get flamed for that, but like after the game, clanmates told me that you could switch up a button that overcast all your spells by default. I didn't know about that. I don't even know how I got to use such feature, you know?
Yeah.
And I got completely fucked. I got tilted so hard during the game. I'm not tilting much about the game, but I got frustrated, more like focused on the thing, and I started to just try to fix the issue. And for like 15 seconds or so, I stopped microing things much. Like I did the very, very basic things that I could think about while trying to fix the issue. Couldn't fix it. I lost my lord, and I thought to myself, I lose this one, I'm gonna be like furious. But it didn't happen, thankfully.
Thankfully, at that point, you were just like I said, you were teetering on army losses for him, so it was like, I mean, all you need to do is push this over the edge. As soon as it get claw routes, it's over.
I did the most textbook like rush for vampire counts against Skaven. I mean, sure I did misplays here and there, but prior to like me not being able to cast normal spells and me trying to fix it, I did it actually. I did play it quite well, but again. Yeah, you saw like you saw how close it was actually. Even Skaven now is quite decent against vampire count. Not saying it's good, but it just goes to show that the faction is not really good.
So, I mean, vampire count's just really fucking bad.
Yeah, that's also very strange as to why I'm saying that I'm saying that you should start with such faction, But I do believe like it gives you a sense that you have to protect your lord, a good sense on the mechanics of single entity fights, and also just a very good sense on how to rush, because the faction is very slow, so the rush needs to be perfect. How to also not get kited. That kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, no, vampire counts need to be crisp on stop and kite, or you can have a really bad game.
Yeah.
If you lose your Vargeist, lose your Blood Knights, then the rest of the game is just a horrible slog to your death.
I hope actually that they bring back the Blood Knights in some ways. I don't know if I want the Grail Knight treatment, but yeah.
I don't think you need to increase too much, but they do need more armor piercing, because I just don't think we live in a world where there's that many lightly armored things that you need heavy cav to deal with. Especially not 1,600 gold, 1,700 gold heavy cav. Maybe not like
you just
maybe not 100% armor piercing, but more.
Yeah. You just saw the firebones, by the way. From what they were to what they are now, there's quite a difference just because of armor piercing tweaks.
Yeah.
It's actually quite interesting.
Maybe go 50-50.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well, we appreciate you, and we welcome you back anytime.
Thank you very much.
Hope the job keeps going well. Hope your travels are safe and fruitful, sir. Thank you for your time.
You hope you have luck on your in real life stuff. I've seen you've been quite busy, so hopefully CA gives you more costs, and from there you get to pop off. I mean,
dude, I would love to. I'd love to make this my full-time job, but the YouTube fates have not had that goal for me yet.
Eventually, no. I do believe that it's just about a matter of time. But anyway, thank you very much for what have you done for the community.
Subscribe, yes.